Is it a sign of a good book when you get very emotionally involved in the characters and the story just angers you so much? Do you care about your children? Do you? Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina K-O-I-S, T-I-N-A. This is where we read books, talk about books, nothing special going on here, no theme music, no none of that extra fancy stuff. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. I'm a little low this week. I've been trying to hit 200 forever. Hello, Mr. Casanova. It's nice to see you. It's just a mess. My analytics are in the basement. I could use some support here. I could use some viewers. I could use somebody that hangs out more than a minute. According to my analytics, I'll dive out at 50 seconds. Anyways, got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. This is book 6 in the Gilded Age series. The Dead Cry Justice. And it's infuriating. The way she goes about this is just absolutely infuriating. So, she's in just a little thing. Prudence is unmarried. She's not a widow. She's wealthy. Her father was a lawyer, attorney, judge, and he's deceased. And, you know, as long as they don't mention propriety, because there's supposed to be a lady's maid or companion, a woman is not allowed to go out alone, and all that kind of other bullshit. And some of my Molly Murphy, my Rise book that's coming out next month that we'll talk about. Oh, I can't wait till that comes out. That's a different situation. She's a lower class. She's always been alone. It's never been priority. But with Prudence, it's different. She's upper class. They're supposed to have a coming out. She's supposed to have a lady's maid. She's supposed to have all this stuff. So as long as they don't talk about it, I'm okay. But when they harp on it, like in the last book, it just drove me absolutely bonkers. But this just made me absolutely furious. If your child is kidnapped or ripped off the streets, and maybe they get taken by human traffickers, or maybe other nefarious characters, and she's tortured and raped and brutalized and drugged and held for a really long time, and she escapes, and she gets help from a shelter, and the shelter contacts you, and you go there and you deny that she's your child. How could you? How absolutely arrogant, self-centered, cruel. And an hour later, the child takes her life because the one person she thought would save her didn't care enough. In the beginning, he hired private investigators, whatever. But when he finally saw what happened to his child and the condition she was in, he disclaimed her. He's like, nope, don't know her. She's not mine. I was livid. I'm sitting there screaming at the book. There's cruelty out there, but you don't read. I know there are some of you out there that read for that. You love to cry and your angst, and you like to carry it away. And you post on Facebook, give me a book that will kill me with crying and depressing. I don't want to cry and depress. I want to read to escape. I want to enjoy a book. I want to maybe a little mystery, maybe a little murder with a romance on the side, little detectiving. So, is it a good book that it raises your hackles? Like a good TV episode, like a good soap opera. And you're sitting there screaming at the TV, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You know the plot line. all right, the writers are doing it to you. So, where was it? Oh yeah, Prudence. So she's sitting in the park, and she's been invited to attend a law school. The University of the City of New York is going to start a law class for women, and they want Prudence to attend. They want to have 5 or 6 ladies, an entire class of only 5 people, to do private seminars and then take the bar exam. And Prudence is in the park debating. Now, in the last book, like I mentioned, there was all this propriety stuff, and her aunt was in town and insisting she dress a certain way, and blah, 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 blah. All this bullshit. So the end of the book, her aunt wanted her to go to England, spend some time with her, and Joffrey's been shot, he's been hurt, that happened in the last book, he's injured, he's laid up, he's recovering. So she's in the park contemplating the law school thing. Her aunt is left for London, and Joffrey's confined wheelchair, well, cane at least, trouble walking situation. He's healing though, he's getting there. So anyway, she's in the park, and she's got a dog, Blossom, and she's got a sandwich on the bench next to her. She's really not interested in eating because she's too messed up in her head about all these little problems. And these little problems are nothing compared to what the problems are, what real life is. So anyways, sorry. So she's sitting on the park bench when a street urchin comes by and steals her sandwich. And she decides to follow the kid. Oh, here comes the other co-host. And she follows the kid to a slums place, and she finds him, a little 16-year-old kid, maybe a little younger, 15, with his sister, pretty much starved to death, very filthy, hair ragged, starving to death, and the sister's got a fever. Now, Prudence takes them to the hospital, a refuge, a homeless refuge place, to get medical help. Now, this is my first issue, all right? She took them to a place where they would be safe, that they would get medical care, that they could seek help. But they're so afraid that after they get the help, or enough help, they leave and go hide again. So then Prudence, she tries to seek help in finding the children, and they go about it the longest path possible. No flyers or posters or none of that crap. We don't want anybody to know. It's all secret and hush hush. Yes, ma'am. So, they do this such a roundabout way. First, you're on my notes, you know that. So, first they go to the city asylum, because there was a notice in the paper that a kid was dead, and it sounded like the boy. It turned out it wasn't the boy, and it turns out there's fishy stuff going on in the asylum too. Of course, even today, there's probably fishy stuff going on in the asylum. But with social media, it might be a little harder, but who knows? People can always hide stuff. And then, so they do the asylum, and then they go to this guy, Jacob Rias. He's a famous photographer, and he's been taking pictures of the slums and stuff. And they spot the kids in one of his slum pictures. And then they go to the alleyway where the picture was taken and question people around there. And then they get to Ned Hayes, who's an ex-cop who had a drug habit who was kicked out. And they go such a roundabout way, and it takes forever, and it's just like, ugh. And they end up rescuing another girl, and like I said, she'd been missing a year, and they go to her. She confesses who she is and gives her parents' name and addresses, and they go to the house, and the father's like, no, you're giving us false hope, this isn't my daughter. And they tell him what happened to her, and they go to the place, and he sees her, and he sees her physical condition, and sees that she's been tortured and raped, and all this stuff has happened to her. And him and his son, her brother, the two of them, because they didn't bring the mother and the sister with them. And if they brought the mother and the sister with them, it might have been a different story. But the men decided to handle it, and they disavowed all knowledge of her, and then she kills herself. And I'm telling you, I was screaming and yelling in chapter 18, backwards, frontwards, 6 ways forward. And then she goes to Nellie Bly, and then they find out some other information, and then they go up to the Hudson Valley, to a local newspaper up there, because they've done a search in the newspapers here. And then they find the family, they find the real names of the kids, and they do this search around the block, and then someone sends Prudence this head. It's a doll, it's a porcelain doll, but it's not a real porcelain doll, it's a fake porcelain doll. And it leads to this dollhouse place, and apparently they would dress the girls as dolls and make the dolls look like the girls, and there was prostitution of all ages and races, and it was just it becomes almost a human trafficking story here. And it's like, what is it with the books lately? This is like the third or fourth book I've read lately about human trafficking, and it's a horrible thing, and it should not be happening. And besides the physical damage, some of it can be fixed, but a lot of it can't be fixed, is the mental damage, which is pretty much permanent. It takes a lot of shrink work, and even then, a person could have serious ramifications mentally for the rest of their lives. It's just a horrible thing to have happened to people. We're spending all these millions of dollars overseas. We need to spend the money here in the United States. There's people on every street corner panhandling, because it's just easier to stand on this corner and ask strangers for money than it is to go into a government agency and ask. The red tape is up the yin yang. It's just easier and faster, because if you want to eat today, the government is not going to feed you today. They are so not going to feed you today. But in 1890, which is around that time this book takes place, I just, they're just looking for the kids. They're not solving a murder, they're looking for the kids. And they do it in the longest way possible, so many different avenues. And they finally do find the kids again, and find that apparently, a little spoiler here, but the evil relative that got rid of them in the first place has hired somebody to kill all kids that look like this kid until he can get to this kid and then kill the real kid. But it does have a sort of happy ending, I guess. But I'm still pissed off about the girl in chapter 18. It's a good story. It kept my attention. It made me very angry and passionate. So I guess I have this thing. If you put a book down and you remember what it was about, that's a good book. If you put a book down and you have to what was it about again? Oh yeah, then it wasn't a good book. So this was a good book because it got me passionately enraged about the human trafficking story. I'm still confused about Ned Hayes' issues, what he's going to do. And I'm still confused about Godfrey and Prudence's relationship, although it is early in the series. So maybe we need some laughter after this. Maybe I'm gonna go do a Jana De Leon now. Get something a little lighter going. I need some fortune. Those books are just so funny. We did all Janet at Christmas, so I'm like, I need my comic relief. Please check out Flashback Mondays and Star Trek Fridays, and following Star Trek Fridays, If Then. If you like this author, maybe you like this author. If you like Julia Quinn's Bridgertons, maybe you'll like Joanna Lindsay's Mallory's. If you like Patricia Cornwell, maybe you'll like these other authors. If you like Lorna Barrett, maybe you'll like these authors too. We're going to do some sci-fi. If you like Timothy Zahn or Mosette, we'll do some of those. And Dan Simmons and all. But anyways, Rosemary, Simpson, The Dead Cry Justice, and there's no dead body in the beginning. It's just lost kids, and they take the longest time to get the story on these kids and why the kids leave in the first place. Yeah, they were scared and all, and I'm still pissed off at that girl's parents. I think I'll hop on that for a couple days. So please hit the like and subscribe and let me know I'm doing a good job. Thank you.